used to be Lonzo, now I'm ballin' like I'm Kobe. I used to buy the Wrangler, now the jeans made for me. And I done made a name, give a month, I start touring, bitch. And I can't stop now. West Coast like I'm Pac now. Ride around town with the top down. Yeah.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? AK The Analyst checking in on another episode of What's the Call. Today we're going to be talking about Andrew Wiggins and the D'Angelo Russell trade between Golden State and Minnesota. I'm here with Mix, and Mix, you want to kind of introduce yourself?
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to What's the Call, like my boy AK said. And we're going to be talking about Andrew Wiggins today, the entire trade, the altercation between D'Lo and Andrew Wiggins. That's kind of been kind of the primary trade that has happened in this NBA trade deadline sort of period. So, AK, why don't you kick it off with, we're going to split this topic up into three different sections. We're first going to talk about whether or not the Warriors won or lost this trade, because that's a pretty controversial topic. So, AK, why don't you answer that question?
Yeah, so, from the start of this season, we kind of already knew that the Warriors were going to either experiment with D'Angelo Russell once Steph Curry came back, or just get rid of him, and as you can tell now, they got rid of him. So the initial trade between the two teams were the Warriors sent D'Angelo Russell, Jacob Evans, and Amari Spellman to Minnesota for Andrew Wiggins, a 2021 protected first-round pick, and a 2021 second-round pick, which I believe is unprotected. So when this trade initially was, when it was first initially, I guess you could say told by Adrian Wojnarowski, I felt that the Golden State Warriors lost this trade, and I'll tell you why. I could care less, and I know a lot of people do, a lot of Warrior fans do. We could care less about Jacob Evans. He was just not good. No matter what we did, whether we put him on the starting lineup or benched him, he just didn't fit our team, and it just, that wasn't really a loss for us. But I think the biggest loss I felt like in this trade was once I heard that Amari Spellman's name was in this trade deal. I was kind of upset because I felt like Spellman was actually making a lot of strides, and I thought he was actually going to be a good asset for us to have at least on the bench going into next year. But then, I sat down and thought about it, and the Golden State Warriors and Bob Myers they've always done a good job of finding these types of guys like Amari Spellman. And when I really, really sat down and thought about this, D'Lo is a point guard, Steph Curry obviously is a point guard, and Klay Thompson is a shooting guard. It's kind of bizarre to have, it's actually really bizarre to have three guards in one lineup, right? And especially with D'Angelo Russell being so ball dominant, it just wouldn't work with the Golden State Warriors, their play style. Even Steve Kerr also implied too that it just wasn't a good fit. And this move for Andrew Wiggins was going to make sense, and it clearly does, because I think for Andrew Wiggins, the biggest problem for him in Minnesota was his inability to thrive, and that was because the expectations and standards set around him, in his rookie year, and going to Minnesota heading into his second or third year was, he's going to be a superstar, he's going to be a franchise cornerstone for us to build around. And after Jimmy Butler kind of came along with the club, it was quite evident that Wiggins just was not going to be that guy. But I think what's going to be good for Wiggins is his ability to fit with the Warriors, because A, he's not a guard, he's a forward, and B, he can take on that Harrison Barnes role where he doesn't have to be a superstar, or hell, even a star. As long as he's just a great role player who's, putting up 20 points, 25 points, getting, good 5-6 boards a game, and, 4 or 5 assists, I think that's all the Warriors need. Mix, what was your take on this trade when you first heard it?
So, when I first heard it, this is kind of where me and AK have this altercation between whether or not we like D'Lo. AK actually likes D'Lo on the Warriors.
Yep.
I don't. And I'll tell you why. So, D'Lo on the Warriors, me and my dad, we're both Warriors fans, obviously. And watching D'Lo, I guess you could kind of say it wasn't his fault in some situations, but it kind of was, because the Warriors are a system team. They rely on so many different people. Like, I'll give you an example. In 2017, when Kevin Durant had joined the team for the first time, the Warriors were making their big run. Kevon Looney began stepping up. Guys like Zaza Pachulia, who else? David West, even when David West was still there. Alfonso McKinney, Sean Livingston, all of these guys were role players. And the Warriors, they rely on those role players more than many other people actually do. And again, we didn't go out and chase these role players. Coming onto the Warriors, all of these guys like Livingston, Pachulia, they weren't as skilled as some people may have imagined at first sight. However, on the Warriors, playing with Stephen Curry, playing with Klay Thompson, they just develop their skills automatically. And I guess that's how good Steph and Klay really are. But anyways, going back to this, D'Lo was not a system player. You could always see him taking the last shot when it mattered most. And we all know this season for the Warriors doesn't really matter. They're kind of trying to tank for a top 3 pick, hopefully, which they can get this year. And they're definitely going to get in the next draft in 2021 as well. But D'Lo, I thought it was in Bob Myers and Steve Kerr's best interest to have D'Lo spread the ball around, because this season is primarily for all of the Warriors rookies like Jacob Evans, Amari Spellman, Alec Burks, Eric Pascal, even Alan Smilicic now, to gain basketball IQ, gain basketball knowledge, and develop their skill so that next season when Steph and Klay come back, they are ready and they are going to make that forceful playoff push, hopefully.
And,
kind of prevented that from me. For the Warriors. And I just don't think that when it came to passing the ball around, D'Lo either didn't make smart passes or he didn't pass the ball, period. But I'm not going to deny that D'Lo he's a good player. Definitely his last season with the Nets, which was last season, that he developed his skill. He proved that he deserves to be in the NBA. He cast all eyes upon him. But on the Warriors, I just don't think it was a good fit personally. And even when he came on the Warriors before all of this happened, I didn't think it was a good fit. He's just not a true Warrior at heart. He doesn't play like a system player. And same thing with Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant did obviously amazing for us. He kind of developed some skill as he came on, but he was never a true Warrior. Steph, Klay, Drake, those guys are true Warriors. They were drafted by the Warriors, and we made them into stars. So bottom line, when I first heard about this, I was pretty happy with how the Warriors, first of all, just traded D'Lo away. I think that the Warriors were going to do that at the beginning of the season anyways. Just get rid of D'Lo. They only wanted to sign and trade Kevin Durant for value, so it had to be a trade, so they got in exchange for D'Lo. But I think Bob Myers knew in his heart that D'Lo was not going to fit with the Warriors, and when Steph and Klay come back, it just wasn't going to work out. You can only have so many ball hogs, as I say, on a team. Even though Steph and Klay don't really count as ball hogs, they're still, when the ball's in their hands, they need to be able to come up clutch. So, bottom line, in the beginning, I was happy with this trade, and till the end, I'm still happy with this trade. I think Andrew Wiggins, like AK said, the difference between Andrew Wiggins and Kevin Durant was that Wiggins does not need to be a star. And even the difference between Wiggins being on the Golden State Warriors and Wiggins being on the Timberwolves is that on the Timberwolves, Wiggins was expected a lot. He was a first-round pick in 2014, and this guy was thrown into the NBA and just expected to carry this Timberwolves franchise, and he did not do so. He was a pretty big disappointment in Minnesota. So now he comes to the Warriors, and now he can actually get the support and the help he needs from guys when Steph and Klay come back, and even Draymond, and he can fill that role player that D'Lo was going to fill, but he was gonna fill it to a higher extent than we personally thought. So, bottom line again, I'm happy with this trade from start to finish. But before we continue on to another topic, I'm just going to read this quote that Steve Kerr had said. And I quote Steve Kerr on this. He said this about Andrew Wiggins after his first game. So here it is. He's been in a tough spot, and people have talked about him underachieving the last few years. So let's see what we can do, and let's see what he can do next to a group of players who have been wildly successful, a.k.a. Steph and Klay. There's a difference in the role that we're going to ask him to play too. Minnesota needed him to be a star, And we're not asking him to be a star. We're asking him to play a role on the team that already has some star players. There's a huge difference there. When you have to play that role, it means bringing energy every night more than it means putting up numbers. He's very capable of giving us numbers, but what we need is energy and the commitment defensively and sprinting the floor. So again, Steve Kerr basically just said exactly what I said. Wiggins does not need to be a star on the Warriors team. He just needs to be a role player, and I think he will do so effectively.
Yeah, and, Mix just brought up a point of me really liking D'Lo. What I liked about D'Lo was just he has that scoring ability that both Steph and Klay possess, right? He can catch and shoot. He's very good at spot-up shooting. So when this trade was, when the the Brooklyn Nets essentially did this sign and trade deal with the Golden State Warriors after the departure of Kevin Durant, I had the idea, and I think a lot of people had this idea, that the Warriors would keep D'Angelo Russell as the point guard, which is where he's the most effective at, and they would move Steph Curry to the shooting guard and then have Klay Thompson as a small forward. Now, like Mick said, obviously, in reality, that mix would not be, it would not be ideal for the team. It's not who the Warriors are. It's not their identity. But I mean, what I liked about D'Lo is, in a season where we didn't have really anything, especially with Steph and Klay being out, I feel like D'Lo made the Warriors somewhat exciting to watch. I mean, he's a star in the league, but he also brought in intensity, and you knew you were still going to get a lot of good games from him. Some high scoring. He had that 51-point game against Minnesota, ironically. So. What I liked about him, he was just something exciting to watch for in a time of rebuild and a time of really self-evaluation after the Warriors losing KD and then Klay and Steph being out. But in all reality, though, I think this Andrew Wiggins trade is going to be good, and it'll work out for both parties. Again, with the pressure being off of Wiggins and Golden State needing to dump D'Angelo Russell. And even for D'Angelo Russell, too, I think this trade will benefit him, too. He goes to Minnesota with one of his good friends in Karl Anthony Towns. They just won last night against the LA Clippers, I believe 142-115, and won their first game since November 27th, and they just ended a 13-game losing streak. So I think D'Angelo Russell will, spark a, light for them at the end of the tunnel. But again, people need to understand the Golden State Warriors are going to be so dangerous next year. I mean, you got Steph Curry coming back, you got Klay Thompson coming back, Draymond Green's going to be Draymond Green once those two come back. Then they add Andrew Wiggins, and then they're going to have, this top draft pick who's the prospect is James Wiseman, who's a big man. I believe he's 7'1", 7'2", that can shoot the ball. And the Warriors have always struggled with big men, but I mean, the development of Marquise Chris, how good Kevon Looney is, and then if they get James Wiseman, this team is going to be very, very scary. It'll be interesting. I mean, California is going to have all the good teams, the Clippers, the Lakers, and the Warriors. And I think also what's essential to remember too is all these guys that they have, Kai Bowman, Damian Lee, Jordan Poole. I'm not going to give up on Jordan Poole yet, still too early, but these guys are just going to get better and better, and with all of this going on, they're just getting more experience. And even Smilagic, I believe his name is, Allen. I'm just going to call him Allen. Watching him yesterday, too, he's not the most athletic guy, but, I mean, he's grit and grind, and that's what the Warriors kind of need. And it'll be kind of cool to see what Wiggins can bring to the table once Steph and Klay come back. So last thing, Mix, I wanted to ask you a question. So, with the Warriors signing Andrew Wiggins, Wiggins is on a max contract deal, and he still has till 2023 on that deal. But, a big name that has come up for the Golden State Warriors is Giannis Antetokounmpo, and
that's right.
And he's going to be a free agent, not this season, but the next off season. So I wanted to ask you. You brought up a point. You kind of put Giannis Antetokounmpo, linked him with Andrew Wiggins. So I just wanted to ask you, what do you think the Warriors will do with Wiggins? Do you think they keep him? Do you think they offload him like D'Angelo Russell? Just tell us what you think.
Right. So Wiggins is a very expensive player, and if you took a look at his contract when he signed with with the Warriors, or not necessarily when he signed, when he was traded to the Warriors, that is a lot for the Warriors to keep. The good thing is for the Warriors is that the only max contracts they have currently are Steph and Clay. Draymond has a pretty expensive contract, but guys like Sean Livingston, Andre Iguodala, those guys were on some pretty expensive contracts as well. So they got rid of them, they cleared a bunch of cap space, and now they have a lot of rookies. So here comes Wiggins with his really expensive contract. And what I think the Warriors are just doing right now is they are saving a spot. They are holding a place in that small forward position for Giannis Antetokounmpo, and I'll tell you why. Giannis is obviously a very expensive player. I think that he definitely has a shot this year with the Milwaukee Bucks to win the championship. He's been an amazing player. He's been a beast, the Greek Freak, for the past couple of years, dominating the league on the East side especially. So, bottom line, he's an expensive player. And the Warriors are going to need that cap space in order to house Giannis. So, holding in place for what Giannis needs to acquire if he comes to the Warriors, that's what Wiggins is for. Wiggins, I think, has like $100 million contract, and I know Giannis's contract is a little bit more than $100 million. It's probably like $253 million. I think that's what I remember seeing. It's a max. But first of all, when Giannis reaches free agency in 2021, he's not going to have that contract anymore. The Warriors will be able to sign him and give him however much money he needs. But again, it's probably going to need to be the max because it's Giannis. So I think what the Warriors did a really good job. And think about it. If you think about how this past year has gone for the Warriors, they've been planning all for Giannis. The only max contracts they have to deal with are Steph and Clay. All these other rookies that they have in the mix, they don't even have like decent amount of contracts. Their contracts are very small, very short, not a lot of money at all. So the Warriors definitely have a lot of cap space. I mean, now that Wiggins has come, it's obviously, I think they've reached that max potential. But when Giannis comes, I know Bob Myers is a very smart guy. Same with Steve Kerr. That Warriors management, they were able to create this dynasty in itself. They will find a way to incorporate Giannis. If they believe that is what the Warriors are trying to look for, that is what will lead the Warriors back to the NBA Finals, and that is what will lead the Warriors to another franchise dynasty. So, bottom line is, I think that Wiggins will continue to play with the Dubs this and next season until the big free agency season in 2021 comes and the Warriors try to pursue Giannis. He's going to be a free agent, so it's not going to be necessarily a trade. I think the Warriors will probably have to trade away Wiggins because he is on a contract, and I don't think it's eligible for the Warriors to actually drop him since it's his contract. He still needs to play in the NBA until it's gone. And Wiggins' contract is until 2023. So they definitely still have a lot of time. With him, but I think this entire thing is set up for Giannis. So, again, bottom line, it's Wiggins is holding a spot for Giannis Antetokounmpo, and hopefully he will join the Warriors in 2021. Me as a Warriors fan, I'm saying hopefully. AK as a Warriors fan, he's probably saying hopefully, but I think it's probable.
And here's the thing about Giannis I actually want to bring up. At least now that you have Andrew Wiggins, like you have a guy that's guaranteed, right, not going anywhere. Like this obviously Giannis would be great for the Golden State Warriors. That would be a whole nother Kevin Durant on a team with an even more experienced Steph Curry and Klay Thompson. A guy like Andrew Wiggins, too, will also be easy for the Warriors to kind of offload. A couple of teams that come into mind to me that should pick up this guy. Washington, San Antonio, those types of teams, I think, is an attraction to an Andrew Wiggins. I mean, let's look at his season averages this year alone. 22.5 points per game on 48 field goal percentage. A guy that can, space the floor out with good guards, really good, defensively when it comes to stealing the ball, can cut to the basket for easy layups. So this guy, obviously the question of him having any value or worth, that's not a question. I think for me, though, it's so risky to invest in Giannis, though, just because of the fact that, Milwaukee is like, they've treated him like a son, and, Giannis thinks highly of the city of Milwaukee. I can see him walking away, but the only other team I could see him walking away to is the Golden State Warriors. And if he doesn't do that, I just feel like getting rid of Andrew Wiggins, that's kind of, I don't know. You have to make sure that you are 100% confident that Giannis comes in. But I can totally see what Mix is saying, and referring to the point of, them waiting to get Giannis, and this is kind of acquiring Andrew Wiggins is just one more way that they can do that. But it'll be interesting to see, though, once Klay Thompson and Steph Curry come back. That's when you can really evaluate what this club's going to do with Wiggins and what they're going to do moving on forward with the organization. But I think at the end of this all, I think the Andrew Wiggins trade, it'll be good for them. It'll be beneficial for them, in the long run. And again, this season's going to be so good, but I can't wait till next year. And California is going to have 3 great teams: the Los Angeles Clippers, who are my NBA final favorites. We'll get into that in a whole nother video. The Los Angeles Lakers, who just recently lost Kobe Bryant, which is even more fuel for them to try to win the NBA finals. And then you got the Golden State Warriors, who are, kind of in a reset year, but I mean, hey, they're building a monster down there with all those draft picks. Before we log off, Mix, you want to add anything?
Yeah, so just trying to cap off everything we've talked about Andrew Wiggins, Giannis, whatever it may be. I think that Andrew Wiggins will fit the Warriors system perfectly. He's a role player, not a star. However, when push comes to shove, and if the Warriors do not win the championship next year, obviously a team always wants to keep growing, never wants to stop. The Warriors have had a pretty quick reset. Hopefully they'll have a pretty quick reset when Steph and Klay come back. But I think that Andrew Wiggins is still holding a spot for Giannis. And when Giannis comes in, it'll be the dynamic core, the core 4 of Steph, Klay, Dre, and Giannis. So we'll have to see how that all goes. All Warriors fans should be excited. The Warriors are doing big things, guys. Do not sleep on the Warriors. They are going to come back. I'm almost sure of it. I'm hopefully sure of it as well. But anyways, guys, I think we're going to end it there. Thank you again all for listening. If you have not subscribed yet, please subscribe to our channel. We are going to be uploading a lot more content about the NBA and hopefully the NFL. Even though the season has ended, we're still going to be coming out to you guys with different videos on the NFL as well. Challenges. We have a lot of Madden challenges, NBA challenges, so also check those out. Follow our Instagram @_what's-the-call_. We do daily posts 3 times a day. We'll keep you guys updated with everything as possible, as fast as possible. So make sure you guys follow us on there.
Yep, be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Remember, the only way for us to grow and continue improving our content is for you guys to hit that subscribe button, but also leave comments down below. Give us things that you want us to talk about, ways we can improve. We really want to see what you guys have to think, or, suggestions you guys have. Our number one goal here is to have a fan interaction, and I'm super excited to be able to launch multiple episodes with Mix here on What's the Call, and we're going to start posting more frequently, especially with the NBA season coming closer to postseason time, and we'll keep you updated on the NBA and NFL, of course. Before I sign off, I just want to say, remember to follow us on Instagram @_what's-the-call_ for live daily updates on NBA and NFL, and also hit us up on Twitter. It's also @_what's-the-call_, and hell, we even got a TikTok. All right, we're keeping up with the trends. That's also @what's-the-call. So again, thank you again. Sports Mix here, aka the analyst here. We're gonna sign off here, and peace.
Lonzo, now I'm ballin' like I'm Kobe. I used to buy the Wrangler, now the jeans made for me. And I done made a name, give a month, I start touring, bitch. And I can't stop now. West Coast like I'm Pac now. Ride around town with the top down. Yeah. I don't need